Hello, today's topic is industrial geography, and the reading material is the textbook chapter 11. So let's first talk about the origin and evolution of industries. We normally define industry, specifically manufacturing, as processing inputs, and input could be raw materials such as agricultural products, such as minerals and the raw materials from earth. Also, the input includes process material. If a production process can be broken down into many stages, the first stage you have the semi-finished product, and which can be used as input for the next stage. And next stage, you also have a semi-finished product, which can be again further used as input of the next stage. And after all series of stages completed, you have the final output. And that's why when we say the industry process inputs, and this input includes both some raw materials and the process material. So the industry, especially manufacturing, can be defined as the industries that process inputs to obtain outputs. And this is a much more sophisticated process than many industries in primary sector. We know prior to the emergence of modern industry, there was industry as well, which we call them the cottage industry. The cottage industry can be characterized as they produce kind of a product, basically it's handmade, handcraft product, and they produce those products at home, villages, and very scattered locations, and very small in scale, because when you have family members as the basic labor force, you could not produce a product in a great scale. And small use very simple tools, and a lot of times use simple tools also produce simple tools that they use in everyday life and agriculture. Also, they make some homemade clothes, and the energy they use obviously use animate power that include human powers, also the power from the animal. Also use water wheels, windmills. These are the major sources of energy. And from this picture, you can really see that the picture on the left side is a picture that depicts a European family during the 19th century, prior to the Industrial Revolution, where you have this small scale production at the family level. Picture on the right side shows a family environment where people are making kind of carpeting or knitted product, some textile product, again at the scale of a family. So this kind of a production is not very concentrated and scattered in people's home, and also scattered in villages, and also scattered in places where you can find some source of energy, such as by the river, where you could have water mills. So the cottage industry was old, was ancient, but still exists today in many places. Even today in the United States, we know that there are people who have hobbies to make furniture, and they also have their own workshop in the garage. So they make something either for the hobbies, either just a personal interest, or there are people who do want to make things for sale. Our neighbors who produce painted glasses, and those if you go to any kind of craft fair, you see many artisans, they sell their stuff, and they make those basically from their home. So this is contemporary cottage industry. Okay. But the things have changed since the mid 18th century, when we have industrial revolution that have fundamentally changed the way that most of the industrial products were made. Okay, so this is a movement that is characterized by the adoption of modern technologies and commercial energy. And those modern technology is closely associated with what we already familiar with the use of a machine to replace human power to produce a thing, to make things. Also, we no longer use just scattered animated power, animated energy source anymore. We use the commercial energy that is represented by the fossil fuel, coal and natural gas and crude oil. Okay, and because of that, the scale of production become very large. And use machine, use commercial energy, can help to drive the machine that produce the amount of a product many hundreds, even thousand times than the cottage industry. And therefore, with large scale of production, you need many people gathered together in one place, and that's where we call the factory. So that is the emergence of a factory industry that comes with industrial revolution. And when we feel the need for the production together in one place and between different industries, there also the need for exchange of input and output. Therefore, that's where urbanization also became more rapid, where people would migrate to the urban areas to live there and work there, and so collectively to have this large scale of division of labor in one place. So this is the consequences of industrial revolution. This process is not just a economic change. Industrial revolution have brought more than just economic change, not just how the things are made, but also how the society is organized, how these people's representation was achieved. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, people are scattered in the countryside, in the villages, but since the Industrial Revolution, people are gathered in the cities, and they take on different roles. They change from farmers, a peasant, into workers, into the role of many other social positions, such as managers, corporate CEOs, and also there's these different social classes, different social groups need to be represented in political decision-making process, and therefore in the country's political institution, they send their representatives, and therefore that's where we see the emergence of a new political institution to accommodate all these series of economic and social changes. So the industrial revolution is more than just economic change. It's a whole sweeping way, a new way to organize our economy, society, and politics. So also, since the industrial revolution started out, and for a long time, what went on in the West, we see the result of the rise of the West over the rest of the world, and that's how the West became the dominant over the world economy and the politics since 19th century. And that sometimes when people talk about the industrial revolution, they only look at those things that have brought great positive change to human life and positive significance, such as things become more convenient. Now we can make more things, we can produce things in a high efficiency and in more sophisticated ways, but they're also, so they tend to overly romanticize industrial revolution. But we should also see that with industrial revolution, there's a dark side of it. That is that facilitate the colonization and for resources and markets, and to acquire more market, to acquire more resources, to facilitate industrial development, and that's how a lot of corporations from the West expand to the overseas, and in the process help destroy the developing countries' domestic industry and seize their market, and that and put those people in the colonies as the um, as cheap labor and suffer subject to exploitation by the Western power. So that part of the that dark side of the industrial revolution should not be skipped over. So we need to remind ourselves that not everything is perfect when it comes to talk about the industrial revolution. Here, the picture on the left side, we can really see a typical way to illustrate the factory industry. Or you have several hundred people that can be housed under the same roof, factory industry. The picture on the right side illustrates even the dark side of industrial revolution on the domestic workers of Great Britain. So this is a famous drawing by this very famous artist. Is pen drawing that depict the pollutions and the cloudiness and the noise that to the people of working class in the London area. You can in the picture you can see that that's a working class home, very cramped, and with small backyards, and you can see the air was polluted, and also there's a train running through the railway in the background. So that is the picture that depicts the quality of life, the whole landscape as a result of the industrial revolution. That's how the working class of the Western countries, they themselves suffered that kind of sub quality of life. That similarly, that would remind you how the modernization process in today's developing countries such as India and China, they are going through the similar process. And congested space, polluted air, polluted water, and the lives not secure because of the competition, the opportunity to lose a job because you already lost all your land in the countryside. So that is a similar scenario that the working class faced during the first and second wave of industrial revolution in European countries. And many people, when they talk about the industrial revolution, they believe that it's not just one continuous movement. It actually comes in waves. That is, there's ups and downs. There's a period of time when the industrial revolution, when the new changes comes in very intense strength, also very fast pace. But also there's a time when the industrial revolution, the new changes come slowly and more quietly, and just wait for the next round of change coming. So that is so-called waves of industrial revolution. You have this Russian economist who would first figure out the so-called long-term, long-wave phenomena. He kind of figured that there's, about 50 years in length, that it take about 20 to 25 years for the whole change going up. Then quiet down, take about 25 years going down. So that about 50 years is one big wave. And down this wave, you have a set of new technologies that are pushing the new change. after those new technologies, after their effect has shown, and the pace of change begin to slow down, and you are waiting for the next wave of change, then over time, after 50 years, you have a new set of new technologies emerged that would bring a new round of change and take another 50 years to quiet down. Then you have the third wave, and that's why on this slide you can see that you have this five complete waves, that each wave contain a set of core new technologies. That is what push this that wave of change in the industrial um, development. And now people believe that we are at the end of a fifth wave, at the beginning of the sixth wave of industrial revolution. We are enter a brand new phase. We're gonna have this new in the next wave. We're gonna have a whole new set of new technologies. People begin to imagine what that kind of a what that kind new set of technology could be. And on this slide, you can see that people imagine that biochemistry, the green chemistry, the industrial ecology, renewable energies, so on and so forth. All these could be the set of core technologies that will lead the sixth wave of industrial revolution. So the key point here is that industrial revolution comes in phases, comes in waves. It's not just one continuous with constant pace, constant speed. It's not like that. There's ups and downs, that kind of pattern.